Right, let's talk about email deliverability, getting your domain warmed up, all these kind of things. So I've got a few things on the board here. I'm just going to quickly run through it. I've got some notes here, so I might end up looking down. What I want to do is get across the basics here. But what I want you to understand is that email deliverability is a huge subject, and it's quite nuanced depending on the specifics of your industry, what you're trying to achieve, how old your domain is, and 1,001 other reasons. So what I'm giving you is a quick overview that should hopefully give you enough information that you can start then using what's between your ears to come up with a logical way moving forward, and it will help you avoid most of the pitfalls that affects most people. So without further ado, let me just get my pens. I have to excuse me, I've got a bit of frog in my throat today. Right, when it comes to email then, three main things that we've got in the diagram here. TLB, which stands for technical, language, and behavior. Those are the three main things that will drive whether or not your email is sent and it lands in the inbox or it ends up in spam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down a bit more now in terms of what each of these are. So let's go the technical side of it, and let me just finish filling this out. So what do I mean by technical? So this is the technical stuff that you can do in the background that will influence how your email domain is seen. So this is things like having a DKIM record, DKIM, having SPS records set up, having DMARC set up. Don't worry too much about what these are. You can Google them if you wish. Essentially what they are things for email service providers. So let me just put these in. That give them the reassurance that whoever it is that's sending these emails are legitimate and that these emails are meant to come from this domain. Because what happens is you've got these spammers that are in foreign countries, and what they'll do is they'll send and they will spoof. So as if it's coming from your domain name. So let's say your domain is I don't know, Acme Pens. They will then send something that looks like it's coming from Acme Pens, but you will find out that it's coming from maybe some kind of porn website, or they're selling some sort of crap e-commerce product, something like that. But because it looks like it's coming from your domain, it means that it can get through. So what the email service providers do with these three things here is that basically says that this domain is meant to send this email. And what that does is it stops spam emails. But what that means is if you don't have this set up correctly in the first place, the email service providers will look at this and say, this is spam, therefore it's going to the spam folder. So this is a real easy one. This is something that will take you about 3 minutes to set up. If you're not sure how to do it, Google it, find a video. There are 1,000,001 videos on how to do this. Things like SPF and DKIM, sometimes they're set up for you, so you don't even have to do it. So that's one of the easiest ones to fix straight away if you want your emails to land in the inbox. The next one I'm going to go on to is language. Now, everybody's had spam emails. Everybody's looked in their junk. Everyone's looked in their inbox. And normally within about 3 seconds of looking at it, you can tell it's spam because they use things like words like free or click now or sign up. Words, salesy type words that basically flag straight away that this is something that's to be ignored. So language is what we're putting in here. And there's a few parts to this, so I'm just going to crouch down here. So one thing that can affect this is punctuation. So if you're someone that has to have things absolutely perfect, has to capitalize everything, they want it all perfect, things like a subject line, if you were emailing your best friend, you're probably not going to have the punctuation exactly right because they know that it's coming from you. So if you've got something that's absolutely perfect with the punctuation, you're also using sales type words. So let's put salesy or spammy type words. So that's things like free, sign up, one-time offer, words like that that just set alarm bells ring. What happens is the email service providers will look at this, they'll look at the content of your email, or at least the subject line, and they will make it a determination based on that. Is this likely to be spam? And what they do is they look at millions and billions of emails, and very quickly they're able to work out what's likely to be spam, what's likely to be good. So if you've got an email headline that says something, here's a free offer, sign up now, guess where your email is going to end up? In junk. So don't use things like that. Use something that's unassuming, that creates intrigue, that helps someone to click on that. What you're doing with the subject line is you're selling the open. Once you open the email, that first line has to sell the rest of the email. Then the email has to sell the click on the link that's in the email. So that's the kind of things that you're looking for with your language. In here, what I'm also going to put in is links. So it's not language as such, but it's tied in with the copywriting. If you've got 6 different URLs in your email for people to click on, that straight away says spam, because you're not likely to email your friend with an email with 6 different URLs in it. So if you're going to put links in an email, make it 1, at a push 2. So if you've got a signature block where you've got all your LinkedIn, you've got your Facebook, you've got all these things, I would suggest take them out, certainly for the first email when you're emailing someone. Have a look at something called Linktree. It's free, and what that allows you to do is put one link, and then you've got all your social media and every other link that you want. When they click on the Linktree link, it opens up a mini web page that's got all your links in there. So it means you've got one link on your email. You're not having to send out an email that's got 7 or 8 different URLs in it. That's a big one. When it comes to language, just make it natural. Try not to make it salesy. Try not to make it spammy. Just have a conversation. And this is where copywriting comes in. And that is another huge part to this that you're either good at or you're not. Be careful how you do your copywriting. If it's too structured and if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, the email service providers will assume it's a duck. So just try and make it unassuming. Look at the emails that get through to your inbox. Look at the ones that go into spam and study them, and you'll find out very quickly what works and what doesn't. Right, the last one then is behavior. This is probably the most important one. This is the one that screws up more people than anything else. And the reason being, let me just put this in. This is the one that you can control. Partly. There's a part that you can control. There's a part that you can influence. 90% of your effort can go into this one. That's great. But if the 10% down here that you've got left over, you're not focusing on what the prospect's going to do with their behavior, it will screw everything up for you. So let's look at what you can do first and foremost for your behavior. It kind of goes without saying, but don't spam. And by that I mean, don't send out, when it's a brand new domain that you've owned for less than a day, send out 300 emails on a day, because within 24 hours, you're going to get shut down, because that's not natural behavior. It screams out spam. So don't spam is the biggest one. Language. What else is it? So don't spam. Sending rate. And then the ramp up rate. By that I mean, if you are sending 10 emails a day just now, tomorrow don't send 20, and then the day after 30, and then the day after 200, because that rate is it's going up too quick. And I'll explain it when I get to this table here that should hopefully help you a little bit more. So what I've got there, don't spam. Use sensible language that makes sense. Your sending rate, so that's the amount of emails that you're sending. If you send 800 emails in one sitting, that screams out spam. If you've also got everybody as a carbon copy, as a CC in an email, then that is going to scream out that that's spam. So don't CC or be CC. Those are the biggest ones. And right, let's look at the prospect now. So this is the things that the prospect, how their behavior can influence what happens. The biggest one that will put you into spam quicker than anything else is spam reports. If you send out emails and someone flags it as spam, you are screwed. So make sure that what you're sending out is relevant, that makes sense, that delivers value, that gives the prospect something. You're not just saying, give to me. It's not take. It should be give. So they're getting something that's meaningful to them. So that one is the biggest one that you want to try and control for. The next one is unsubscribes. That's the next one. And the reason that one's important, if you are sending out 1,000 emails and 20% of people unsubscribe to it, that says to the email service providers, this email's crap. This is not what people want. 20% of people are telling me I want to unsubscribe. So either it's spam or it's completely irrelevant to what that person wants in their inbox. So again, the email service providers will look at that, especially if you've got spam reports, and they will say this is junk, and you'll end up in the spam folder and you won't end up in the inbox. So that's a really important one. Next one is bounce rate, or the amount of bounce. For those that don't know what a bounce is, you've got soft bounce and a hard bounce. Soft bounce is, for whatever reason, the email address that you're sending to, it is valid, but it might be their inbox is full, or it might be there's a temporary issue with the server. That's a soft bounce. That's not really going to affect your deliverability in the main. The one that will is a hard bounce, and a hard bounce is when that is an email address that's not valid. If you're getting hard bounce after hard bounce, that says to the email service providers, this is not someone that's emailing somebody that they know, or they don't know them that well, because you're getting 5% of emails that have been sent out are saying that it's no longer an email address. So that's a warning sign, again, for people that buy lists on the dark web, or they buy them from elsewhere that are old lists and spam. They're more likely to get a bigger bounce rate. Whereas if you're emailing your friend, it's unlikely it will be a hard bounce. So bounce rate will really affect that. Then the next thing is the open rate and the click rate. Open rate and click rate. And another one is share or forward. So again, let's look at this behavior. If you send out an email, people don't send a spam report, they don't unsubscribe, you get very few bounces, if any. Let's say you're getting 50% of people are opening the email, the links that are in there, 20% of people are clicking on the links, and 5% are forwarding this email on. What does that say to the email service provider? This is content that's good, people are opening it, they're clicking on the links, and not only that, but they're forwarding it on to other people, or they're replying. So they're replying to sender. That is generally a good sign, because not only have they opened it, they've clicked on it, they've shared it, but they're actually replying back to the person that sent it, which gives a really good, strong signal to the email service providers. Not only is this relevant, they're actually having a conversation now. And this is where it really works for you. So most of the behavior up here that you can control, but it's the stuff down here that will really screw you up. So you've got to really focus on what the prospect is going to do, why they're going to do it, and try and mitigate for that before it happens. So I'm going to give you a scenario here that will hopefully try and help you understand how emails work, but for the email service providers. And to do that, we're going to go and buy a brand new Lamborghini. Now I'm going to give you two scenarios here. The first one is we're going to look at an 18-year-old kid who works weekends at McDonald's, flipping burgers. He earns $8,000 a year. He's got a credit history that's 4 months old. He's missed 2 payments though on his credit cards. His credit cards are almost maxed. We're at 95% utilization. His credit rating is 492. That's his credit score. And he's got a credit limit of 2,000. And he's had 1 payment that's bounced completely. So not only has he missed 2 payments, he's got 1 that's bounced right now. So the chances of him going into a Lamborghini dealership and saying, I want to buy a $400,000 car, the chances of him getting anywhere is somewhere between absolutely 0 and no chance. let's look at another scenario now. Let's look at a 50-year-old who earns, let's say he earns 500,000 per year. His payment history, he's 50 years old, so let's say, what's that going to be, 32 years of payment history. How many payments has he missed in the last 10 years? 0. His utilization, let's say something like 12%. His credit rating, let's go 9, 10. Does it go that high? I'm not quite sure. We'll assume it does. And his credit limit on all his credit cards, let's say 220,000. And bounce payments, 0. If this guy, who happens to be a doctor or an engineer, lawyer, they walk into the dealership and he's in his suit and he says, I'd like to buy a Lamborghini, please, and I'd like to look at the options for financing. Certainly, sir. Have you got some pay slips? He hands over his pay slip and it's 500,000. They look at his credit rating and what they say it was, 9, 10. And he's got a limit on his credit cards of 220,000. There's a pretty good chance he's going to walk out that dealership with a set of keys in his hands with the finance. Now, the reason I'm using that as an analogy, because email is exactly the same. Think of it like a credit rating. It's all about how you use your credit. It's all about how your payment history is. It's all about how you utilize that credit. And it's all about everything that you would use in a credit history is exactly the same for email. So I'm going to just now show you why this is important and how this links into email. So age. If we're looking at age, we're looking at the domain name here. So what was that I said earlier on? Was it Acme Pens? If you've just bought Acme Pens, the domain name, and it's 24 hours old, and you want to go and send emails from that, that's like the 18-year-old kid going into the Lamborghini dealership. You're saying, I've got 1 day worth of history here, but I'm good. I want to send 2,000 emails tomorrow. You're not going to get any that will land in the inbox. They're all going to end up in spam because you haven't got the history. You're being like the 18-year-old kid who's got 4 months of payment history going into the dealership. So this is, let me just come over to, just knocked that microphone. So this is your domain age. So that's important one. So if you've got a domain that's 25 years old that you've used forevermore, and it's worked for you and you've done well with it, that'll work a lot better for you. If you've got a domain that's a week old, you're not going to be able to send anything from it straight away. It's just going to get burnt straight off the bat. Earnings. So think of this as, rather than money, this is the amount of emails that you've sent out. This is the amount of emails that you're capable of sending. So if you've got a new, so that's like your daily send limit. So this is where it starts from. So if you've got $500,000 a year, you can buy a Lamborghini. If you get 8,000, you can't. Think of this as your sending limit. If you've got your new domain that's 2 days old, you're not going to be able to send 1,000 emails straight off the bat. You have to earn more trust. So this is kind of like the trust that you're earning with email service providers. It takes time, and you've got to earn that as time goes on. Payment history. So this is exactly that. That is just the history of your domain and that email specifically. And what they'll look at for this is blacklists. If you Google blacklists, email blacklists, you will find there are tons of them. If you end up in a blacklist, there's several different ones. You can end up on them for 24 hours. You can end up on some of them for up to 3 months. If you're on there for 3 months, you've got 10, 15 hits on there. That's a pretty big smudge against your name. So missed payments. If you miss payments when you've got a credit card, your history starts to become very checkered. So think of this as ending up on a blacklist. So you end up on there, that's like a missed payment. It won't stop you from necessarily getting additional credit. It won't stop you using your credit cards right now if you've got a missed payment. But what it might do is when you further down the line want to get a higher credit limit, you want to utilize the credit a bit more, they might say no because you've got a black mark against your name. So that's the same thing. So the utilization, this is your daily send limit and how close you are to that. So let's just put daily send limit. So the closer you are to that, so if you can send 2,000 emails a day and you're straight away trying to send 2,000, that's like you getting a credit card today and going out tomorrow with your new 5,000 credit limit and maxing it. It's not going to look good for you with the credit card company because your utilization has just went through the roof straight away without any ramp up, and you've just used every single penny that you've got available to you. It doesn't look responsible. And it's the same with the daily sending limit. If you can send 2,000 a day and straight away you send 2,000, you're now giving people sort of warning signs and they've not got the warm and fuzzy feeling. Credit rating. So all this is going to be is your reputation. And to a certain degree, this is going to be the blacklists as well. If you're on a lot of blacklists, if your reputation with email service providers is poor, then your credit rating is going to go down. And email, although there isn't like an official credit rating, essentially it's the same thing, and that will affect you. All right, credit limit, that is going to be your sending limits. If you start screwing around, and let's say you've got something like, let's say you're using Mailgun, which is one of the email service providers that you can use. Depending on which tier you're on in their program, you can send 25,000 emails a month. You can send 50,000. If you get on some of the other ones, like maybe Active Campaign, you can send 150,000 emails a month. Some of them will go up to 1 million. So this is your credit limit. But again, you've got to look at the utilization here. If you've got a limit of 1 million emails a month, and day one you want to send 1 million, it's not going to work for you. You have to take it slow. And finally, it's bounce payments. If you're going to pay your credit cards and there's not enough money in your bank account, or you pay by check and it bounces, it's not going to look favorable. This is just bounced emails. So this is all about cleaning up your list. It sounds counterintuitive, but if you have emails that are on your list and nobody's opened any of your emails, they're not doing anything, they're ignoring you, I generally, after 30 days, I get rid of them. I just remove them from the list because that is going to affect, because this is effectively like a bounce payment. So this is bounced emails. This is people that are not active on your list. You've got to have good list hygiene and get rid of people that are not on there, that are not getting emails or they're not opening them, because those are going to drag down everyone else. So with that in mind, this is why email warming is so important, because what that does, let's say you've got an email limit of 500 emails a day, and you start off at 200 emails. Probably within a week, you're going to end up with no emails getting to the inbox. If it's not a week, certainly after 2 weeks, because you've went straight in with a new domain and ramped it up. Even if you've got a domain that's 20 years old, if you're sending like 1 email a day and then you're all of a sudden going at 200, it is going to get flagged. You will get flagged, and eventually what will happen, your 15-year-old domain that you've used for all this time, it is going to get crucified, and it means you can't use it for email. Once it gets to a certain point, you're going to have to leave it sit for months and months, sometimes up to a year if it goes really badly for you. And that means in that time, this domain that you've used, that you maybe got a website associated with it, what ends up happening is Google is one of the big email service providers with Gmail. Your SEO is going to start getting affected as well, which means your organic traffic that you get to your website that's so important to your business, that you've had this website on this domain for 15 years, is going to start taking a hit. So if you've got a 500 a day limit, I would suggest, and this will kill a lot of people that are going to hear this, start off at 5 emails per day, wait 2 days, then maybe up it by 2 or 3. So let's say 8. Then you're maybe going to go 11, then maybe 15, 19, and just slowly, and this is per day, and maybe leaving 2 days in between. And the reason being, let's go back to the payment history, let's go back to the earnings, let's go back to the utilization, credit rating, credit limit, and bounce payments. All of these things, if you ramp up too quick, it's alarm bells. If you do it slowly, and that is exactly what warming an email does when you use one of these services. For the love of all that is holy, please, if the limit is 50 emails a day that will allow you to do not start at 50. because you will not end up in inbox and you'll end up screwing up the domains. One way to get around this, or not to get around it, should I say, if you have a domain, find other domains that are either very similar or hyphenate. So let's say your domain is, what did I say, Acme Pens. If this is your main domain that you've had for 10 years, Acme Pens, have a look at finding acme-pens.com. Then I would try acmepens.net. Then you could try things like .biz, all sorts. Just try other ones. And what you would do is Acme Pens, this is your important domain. This is the one that you keep and you protect and you don't send cold emails from. You use these other ones, and I would suggest as a minimum get 3 domains. Start them on a warming service. So something like Warm Up Inbox, which I think it's $10 a month per email. They will ramp it up for you, and have all 3 of these. Because if you've got all 3 of these, and you start with acme-pens.com, and after 2 months, this ends up getting flagged, and it ends up with all the emails ending up in spam, then all you do, because this one's been warmed up, you then move on to that one. Then you find another one, Acme Pens. What else could we do? What's the other one? .org. Whatever it is. So you've always got 3 domains, so that no matter what happens and one of these falls off, you just jump to the next one. But you're constantly warming. And this is why I've said to a few people in the group, do not, whatever you do, use your main domain there. You want to keep this one pristine and use these burner domains. Every domain that you buy will cost you $12 per year through Google. Just go to domains.google.com, search in there to your heart's content. You can buy maybe 20 of these, and it's going to cost you, what would that be? 120, $240. You'd have 20 of these, and just leave them sitting for the year. Then, once you start warming them up, it'll cost you $6 a month for a Google Workspace account. That will allow you to send up to 2,000 emails a day, or 1,500 if it's transactional emails, as in you're cold emailing, and you just warm them up and keep them going. That will save you so much grief, but you have to be patient, you have to go slow, and you have to understand what you're trying to do in the long term. If you just ramp it up, it is not going to work, and you're going to get shut down very quickly. And I probably should have said at the start of this, I've been dealing with online marketing for 15 years. What I'm telling you here is through bitter experience. This is through being bitten in the ass so many times with this. I've had clients that will not listen. They just do not care, and they think they know better. And we had an attorney that had their domain for nearly 20 years. He knew best, went emailing and said, I want it to come from this domain because it's going to be the one that people trust. And within 3 weeks, he had it shut down. 18 years he had that domain. And then his SEO started to struggle, his website. And then he started to sort of, well, why did you not tell me about it? I'm like, sorry, dude, there it is. It was all there. I told you what you shouldn't do, and you chose to do it anyway. And now you're suffering. So don't be that guy or girl. I've told you now what will happen if you do it. So please, for the love of all that is holy, just please take in what I'm saying at face value. By all means, Google it, and you will see this is a well-trodden path. And if you get it wrong, you're going to really screw yourself up. So last thing I'm going to talk about is the KPI targets that you should be looking for when you're sending out cold emails, as in how many unsubscribe, spam, bounce, unique open rate, unique click rate you should expect if you want your campaigns to go well and you don't want your domain to be shut down. These top 2, unsubscribes and spam, these are the 2 that you really have to watch and be so meticulous with. And one other one I forgot to put in there is inbox rather than spam. Right, so hopefully you can still see my head there because I'm crouching down. Right, when it comes to unsubscribes, you want to have less than 0.5%. That is the maximum you want it to be. Ideally, you want it half that, so 0.25%. If it gets towards the 0.5%, then that's when things start happening with your emails. They don't get to the inbox. Spam, this is the one that will absolutely crucify you every time. You want that less than 0.1%. Obviously, the ideal figure for this is 0. You do not want any spam reports. So make sure that who you're sending this to, they want it, or you've got a burner domain there that you can kind of do this and not have to worry about it. Bounce rates, 0.5%. And again, it's close to 0, but I would say 0.25% is probably what you should be aiming for. Maybe even 0.3, just see how you go with it. But the lower you can get these three, the better. These ones, you want it as high as you can. So unique open rate, normally somewhere around about 25% is a decent figure. Obviously it can be a lot more than that, but ideally you want it more than about 35%. Now, with that being said, it depends on your individual niche, it depends on who you're targeting, and it depends on a multitude of factors. So do not get too hung up in this. If you're getting somewhere near 25% that's opening this, that's good. That means you will get business from it. In terms of a click rate, so this is if you have a link in there. Again, it depends on your niche, depends what you're doing, but 1.5% for cold email is not too bad. But ideally, you want at least 2.5%. And then in terms of getting an inbox, well, this is a subjective one, but I would say getting an inbox, you want it at least 95%. So greater than 95%. Ideally, you want that greater than about 98%. Now, depending on who it is you're emailing to, I will tell you now, MSN, so Hotmail, Outlook, nightmare. I've tried for probably the last 10 years to land an inbox consistently with Outlook and Hotmail. For whatever reason, it is one of the tough ones to get in there. You will find that certain email service providers are more lenient. Some of them are a lot more strict. You're just going to have to play it by ear, go with it. Hopefully that has given you a good overview, and I know I've taken quite a bit of your time, but I think it's really important that you understand this, you understand why it happens, and you can start making decisions that are smart and that are intelligent and that will help you, and they're not going to screw yourself over further down the line. Just to summarize this in a couple of words, if you have a domain that is your main domain that you've used for a while and your business is associated with it, please, 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 please do not use it for cold email. Buy 3 other domains that are similar and use them for cold email. That will save your main domain. And then once you get people that reply to you and you want to transact back and forth, then you can use your main domain. Hopefully that gives you a good overview. If you get any questions, any thoughts, anything that you need to help understand this better, then obviously reach out and I'll do what I can to answer those questions for you.